Savvy Business Radio, drawing out the best from our guests with our host, Christina Nichman.
Over 7.5 million people are stalked in 1 year in the United States. After years of research into the topic, our guest today, Cruz, a native New Yorker, created a suspense novel that pulls the reader into the story and keeps them wanting to know what happens next, and every once in a while makes them wonder who may be watching them. Get your very own copy of Stalker today at all major retailers.
Hi, August. Welcome to Savvy Business Radio. How are you today?
Hi, Christina. I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing fabulous, and we're so blessed to have you here. You're talking about a wonderful new novel that you created called Stalker. And I was very, when you emailed me and reached out to me about it, I was like, we have to have you talk about this. We have a new segment called Heartbeat of the World that talks about issues that affect all the people in the United States and things that people are concerned about. And stalking affecting more than 7.5 million people are stalked every year in the United States and become victims of it, and they don't even realize it. And we've talked even before the interview how with disengagement with social media and iPhones and just not being present in life, it's more of a thing happening to more people than we realize. And your book is actually, your nonfiction book, is written from the perspective of the actual perpetrator, which was interesting. Most stalker books are written from the victim's point of view, but this gives a whole new view, which is really awesome to get into the mind of a stalker and realize that, this could happen to anyone. He seems like a quite normal guy. But before we go into some of the nitty-gritty, we want them to go out there and get the book. Share what prompted you to write this book, August.
Well, I used to work in Manhattan, and like most people here in New York City, I live in I commute to work. I used to have to take the train every day into Manhattan. And, after a while, I've always wanted to write. I was always a big reader as a kid, and I was just fascinated by suspense stories. And as I was commuting, I started to realize that if I took the train at the same time every day to get to work on time, and then whenever I left, I noticed that I would see some of the same faces. And I started to wonder one day, people going to work, they're dressed very professionally in their suits, and, and just reading their newspapers or magazines or listening to music. I just started to wonder what they were like in real life and or outside of where I was seeing them. And what they were like behind closed doors. You read every day in newspapers about people who were seemingly normal, average, everyday folks. And then all of a sudden, it turns out they had somebody chained up in their basement.
Oui.
Yeah. And it's, because you don't know who you're standing next to. And so I started to kind of come up with the idea, and I started writing a few notes here and there about somebody who looks just like everybody else. There's nothing extraordinary about this guy, but he becomes immediately fixated on this one person that he sees on the train, and from there just spirals out of control. And then I became very good friends with the horror writer Jack Ketchum, and I had asked him, I go, you write all these stories that scare people, so what is it that scares you? And without missing a beat, he said just people not knowing what they're capable of, which linked right away to what I had been thinking about on the train every day. Like, I wonder what they're like. They seem nice and they seem normal, but who knows what they're like in their normal lives, in their everyday average life. So I started to kind of develop this character, and I thought it would be interesting to. I did some research on stalking and read up on some cases, and I put together this character who's just kind of very low key type of person, not much going on in his life. And what would happen if he all of a sudden became fixated on this person, and why would he do that? And so then I started to develop the story, and that's how that happened. It's a great fiction. I'm a big lover of fiction. And so and I always try, anytime I've done an interview or I've spoken to somebody about it, I want to emphasize it's the fiction. I didn't want it to be like a how-to. It's not an instruction manual.
No, don't go do this.
All right, don't do this. This is exactly what you don't want to do. It's like,
I think I made a boo-boo and said nonfiction before.
You had mentioned nonfiction. So
Yeah, I meant
clarify.
fiction. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No. That's okay. But yeah, I always want to make sure that people know that this is what to look out for, not to do or emulate in any way.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah.
I get the two mixed up sometimes. It's like, duh, one is real, one's not. Yeah, it's true. Actually, what I mostly read is nonfiction books. I love science-related books. And if I don't read science-related books, I like to read sci-fi, which can be real possibly someday. But what I really liked about this, a number of years ago on Savvy, we had a criminologist on, and he said the thing that's very interesting about criminals and perpetrators that do awful crimes is they don't look like monsters. And he said people keep thinking, a serial killer or a murderer will look like an evil person, and a lot of times they look like your neighbor next door. They don't look evil. They look like average normal people.
Well, look at it this way. I don't know if you remember the name John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah, totally.
The serial killer. He did, he was an average looking guy, and he was doing children's parties as the clown.
Yeah.
So something, Ted Bundy, very charismatic, good looking guy, and look what he did. Son of Sam, David Berkowitz. Average looking people. They don't stand out in a crowd. They blend in, and they know how to do that.
Yeah, and even people that do not the standard, I'm going to go mass murder, serial killer, but maybe someone who goes out shooting someone one day. They could look like normal people. There was one guy who at a baseball game of his kid got so wrapped up in the game and the other team stealing a point from his kid that he went there and hit one bat over the head of the father and killed this guy.
Oh,
now,
God.
Did he think to go out that day and I'm going to go murder someone? No, he didn't. He's not.
No.
He probably wouldn't get, what is that, murder one if you don't premeditated or something, but he wasn't planning.
It's not premeditated.
Yeah. But he wasn't planning to go out and be a murderer. But that's what's so interesting about this book and the character is that this could happen depending on how your life's setting up. And if you start going down a dangerous road, anyone can end up doing something horrible like stalking or killing or murdering or become a criminal without choosing to be a criminal per se.
Oh, sure. I mean, Everest is the main character in the story, and it happened completely by accident. I mean, he was just living his life, going to work. Admittedly, it was a boring and horrible life. But he was just living his life. He was going to work every day, coming home, doing whatever he did, and then going back to work. And then all of a sudden, this woman just walked on the train, and that's when everything, changed for him. And he became, little by little, he became more and more obsessed with her until, unfortunately, he became her stalker.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing about it is that often things like we're talking even before the interview that sometimes messes in our life or going down a not good path like he did, it didn't happen all at once. It's little by little, one mistake added to another where it seemingly it seems innocent. And I love the way humans in general love to rationalize as they go about, I just stole a pen from work. That's not really stealing. Yeah, I'm just borrowing it, and then before you know it, you've taken half the closet at work, So, it's interesting. You know what I mean, right?
I know. We justify those little, this is no big deal. I'm just going to take, this is nothing. It's not really stealing. But but it kind of is.
It kind of is. I mean, one gal told me, she'd been in a job she hated for countless years, and she got to the point where she didn't really have people bothering her. She had her own office, so she would come to work and just do her own stuff and write her own plays and do her own whatevers on company time, but no one ever checked up on her. There was zero accountability, so she got paid a very high salary to basically not do any company work and do her own stuff. And we got together one day and I said, don't you kind of see that as stealing? She's like, of course not. I gave my blood, sweat, and tears for years. I'm like, yeah, but you're not now.
Not now. You're not doing that now. That's called stealing time. Believe it or not, that is an actual thing. Yeah. That is an actual thing. So
that's what I loved about your character and the book. It really opened your eyes up to seeing that we could all end up in a situation like this, either as Elsa or as I call him Ernest.
Everest,
that's not Everest. Do you say Everest?
It's Everest, yeah.
Everest.
Yeah.
without seemingly meaning to. What I found interesting
Sure.
about Elsa and a lot of other people on the train every day and in life is they're so disengaged and not present from everyday life. Because I'm like reading the book going, what is wrong with her? Is she blind?
Yeah, it was. If you just take note, if one day you just sort of stand, or next time you go out for a walk or a drive, or you're going somewhere, take note as to the people around you and what they're doing. And I guarantee you that more often than not, you will find people, instead of looking ahead to where they're going or paying attention to what they're doing, their heads are down because they're looking at a screen in front of them. They're texting or checking email or doing whatever, rather than being engaged in the moment, rather than just paying attention to what they're doing. So yeah, it's you see it every day.
And this.
It's so easy to get caught up in that. Oh, I got to check and see if this guy responded.
I know.
I have to see if my boss read my email, or my friend that we're supposed to meet up later. Let me just check. It's so easy to get wrapped up in that and get, just totally disengaged in what's happening around you in the immediate moment. That it can happen.
Wow, August. And today, in this day and age, I mean, you have to be more aware than ever. We've heard about a lot of crimes going on, and a lot of crimes, as one person who came on the show a long time ago said, are crimes of opportunity. Someone who has bad intent in their heart, if they notice there's an opportunity, they just might grab it. And if everyone's disengaged, it makes it that much easier for the perpetrator to do what they want to do. Now, get this, oh my gosh, it's probably about a month and a half ago, I'm on the train going to work, and for a change, I have my phone away and I'm just looking around the car, and a guy gets in and he's wearing about 10 layers of clothes, and it's like 90 something degrees outside, and he's wearing 10 layers of clothes, and he's dressed Middle Eastern.
I'm sweating already.
I know, just thinking about it, right? About 10 layers of clothes and a long, like, smock-like thing. He looks Middle Eastern, and he has this thing on his head, and he has a big plastic jacket on that's closed, and then he's like reading very fervently and sweating like a pig. And I get on, I look at him, and I'm like, this looks not normal. And I start to get a little nervous because I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? Why is he dressed like that under 10 billion layers of clothes, all packed up? And no one seems to notice. They're all like in their phones. And so I look at him, and I start to pull out my phone and take pictures of both of us because I thought if something goes down here, maybe they'll find my phone and find what happened. But basically, what I did is he saw me taking pictures of him. He immediately got off the train, the next stop, and started, looking at his watch before the train, got to the next stop. He was very nervous, saw me taking pictures. And when the train got off, he was like walking on the side of the train very closely, I guess seeing if he could jump into another car. And I was like, heck no, I don't want the next, we go to another stop and then that,
Right.
whatever. So I started following him down the train thing until he kept looking behind me, seeing I was following him. And then he ran up the stairs and ran out of the thing. Now, maybe it was nothing. Maybe he was just a little loony and decided to wear 10 billion things and whatever. But, being what's going on today and some of the funkiness going on, I was like, I don't want to be part of a train that kind of blows up. So I'm going to follow this dude.
No.
And yeah, so.
Yeah, you can't be too careful. No, you can't be too careful these days.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, I sent a picture to the police after I got out, and the police were like, why were you following him? I'm like, dude, because I know by the time I got you guys down there, he'd be gone. So,
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
but I think that's what one guy said a number of years ago that came on the show. He was a criminologist. He's like, basically, the best thing you can do to help crime not happen to you and anyone else is just that we all become more aware of what's going on around us.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And that's Elsa's downfall in the book, because she's not aware. She's really wrapped up in her life and what she's got going on. She doesn't notice these little things, Everest somebody's following her. She doesn't notice little things like when he actually breaks into her apartment when she's not there, things that might be misplaced. And so it comes as a complete surprise when she finds out that Everest has been stalking her. She has no idea. So, but it's because of things like that. It becomes so wrapped up in your daily routine and everything that happens in your life that sometimes you forget to kind of take a moment and say, hey, that doesn't seem right. Something's not right here. And that's why he is able to do the things that he does. That's why he can break into her apartment the times that he does, because she hasn't noticed that, hey, that window isn't locked. you know, that can let somebody in or what have you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's stuff like that. It's like the complete disengagement.
Yeah. And we can all do something about that. But what the other part of the story that I really liked is how easy it is if you don't take control of your life, realize the parts you're not happy with, and start to find ways to fill your life positively. Because he had a pretty miserable life. He didn't like his job, you know.
Yeah.
Everest, and the people he didn't manage to like, but he wasn't really doing anything to try to fix it. And some people could be going for years with depression, anxiety, and not really dealing with it, just kind of going the humdrum, just, you know, existing until one day you find like, oh, here's an opportunity. I'll stalk this person. I'll make my life way more interesting. Instead of realizing there's a more positive way to deal with it, you know, maybe go take a YCMA class or exercise class or, you know, whatever it might be, that you get yourself engaged with people in a real way.
Yeah, and it's, you know, I see that that happen so often. People are posting about it, you know, every day, or new things that they're doing. They're exploring. They're going to take a trip. They're going to take another class. They're going to do something. And unfortunately, the character in the book doesn't do any of that. He feels like he's just stuck, and a lot of that comes from his upbringing. And in the book, I kind of flesh that out. That, you know, he's had a rough time.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he's allowed that to determine the rest of his life. And so he's kind of resigned himself to his own fate, so to speak, or what he thinks is his own fate, until this woman comes by, and then he thinks, oh, well, there's my purpose right there. We're supposed to be together.
Yeah.
And then he goes off on this whole crusade of trying to, you know, put himself into her life and have them be together in his own way, which is obviously not the right way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, what's interesting also about this, August, is that so many people have done this in a real relationship. Like I know in my 20s, I would date guys, and the first day, oh, he's the one, we're going to get married someday. And I'm like, I just met him, you know, all of a sudden he's the one, we're having 10 kids and we're in Long Island.
Yeah.
But, you know, and men, I'm sure, do this too, maybe to a different degree, because men and women have different things. You know, women usually want to have the kids and the family, but it's this whole kind of projection on another person of non-reality. And what would be your take on how people can kind of get real and realize what's a real relationship, and when they're starting to get kind of pulled into non-reality?
So I did a lot of research into stalking by writing the book, and even as I was writing it, so I can incorporate some of the stuff. And the cases, the real life cases that I read, a lot of the stuff that August does, that Everest does in the book. Jesus, I don't want to.
It's not me.
Yeah, no, not me. A lot of the stuff that Everest does in Stalker is actually based on stuff that I read, cases that I read up on. If you find that somebody is, if you're starting to see somebody and you find that all of a sudden people are just, you know, they're just showing up at, you know, coincidentally at where you work, where you live, sending you text, you know, or messages or emails, you know, randomly, well, not randomly, but consistently and often, that's kind of a red flag. If they're very clingy, you might want to kind of take a step back and say, all right, well, you know, let's wait a couple of days before we see each other, if you're interested in the person. Because that's kind of one of the things that I found that stalkers tend to exhibit. They're very sort of clingy nature. I need their attention. I constantly need their attention. They're very, you know, I need them I need to make sure that they know that I'm here, or that they approve of what I'm doing, or what have you. The other thing is just unwanted communications. I mean, that's a big red flag. If you're hearing from them way too often, or more often than you would like, you might want to sort of say, all right, well, you know, kind of go in a different direction. There are numerous cases that document people who have reported this type of activity, and then it escalates from there. They start, you know, getting a little bit more aggressive. That's right there. That's the line. If
Yeah.
you see that they're kind of being a little bit more aggressive with wanting to see you, wanting to talk to you, that's when you kind of have to say, all right, well, I'm done.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's so there's so many red flags like that just as a person, the minute you start to feel uncomfortable with the level of contact that they want to have with you or they're trying to have with you, that's when you need to kind of step back. And there are, organizations that can help you with that.
And what I also realized about stalkers in particular is it's never about the other person. They don't really care about the other person. They think they do, but it's really all about them. It's all about wanting to.
It's all about them.
Yeah, it's all about that. It's wanting to fulfill something empty inside of them. It's not about the other person. They think they're in love with the other person, but it's really about you wanting to fill yourself up.
Oh, absolutely. If you go back, there are even to celebrity stalkers. In fact, I don't know if you remember an actress, a very young actress by the name of Rebecca Schaefer. She was an actress who was on a show called My Sister Sam with Pam Dauber back in the mid to late 80s. There was a guy by the name of John Bardo in Arizona who became obsessed with her just by watching her on TV, and he really believed that they were meant to be together. And he went to Los Angeles about 3 times to try and meet her. He met her once, but he paid a private investigator to find her address. And they gave it to him, and he went. She asked him not to come back. He just showed up at her front door and just not to come back, and he didn't like that. And he went back again, and the second time he went over, he shot her point blank in the chest, and she passed away, unfortunately, at 21. At 21, she was a 21-year-old kid, and just her career was just getting started. And it's because he had this idea. It was all me. No, how dare she insult me? How dare she kick me out? Unfortunately, it's all, it's completely twisted reality.
Now tell me, what do you think about all the social media sites? Do you think they help perpetrate the stalking mentality? Because I'm thinking, and we were talking before the interview, with all the social media accounts, the main character doesn't even have to try to hunt her down and get pictures. He could just go on all the social media sites probably and get personal pictures. What's your take?
Just as great as technology is, and it is great, it helps us find information that we need immediately. Unfortunately, it's like a double-edged sword because it helps us, but at the same time, it's a detriment because that means that we're that much easier to find. I had a friend who was, I had mentioned it to you before. I had a friend who was a private investigator, and he told me that that these days it's people think that they're safe, but if all you got to do is do a simple Google search of the name, and a bunch of stuff might pop up, pictures from years ago, and people think that if they delete things off of their that it's gone. No, it's still out there. It's still out there, and so it's a benefit to have that type of technology, but at the same time, it's a detriment because people keep on putting stuff out there about themselves, and they don't realize that it makes them that much more susceptible to being found. And vulnerable and stalked. I mean, that's just the truth. And it's great to be able to just carry that type of information in your pocket on your cell phone and just say, okay, well, I need to get to this restaurant. How do I get there? Great. But now you've given away your location. Now people know where you're at.
Exactly.
And I remember when I was a kid, we used to leave the lights on whenever we'd go on a weekend vacation, so people wouldn't know that the place was empty. Well, now it's not like that because people know exactly where you are. So it's definitely making stalking easier. There are people who say, oh, I wonder what my ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend in high school is doing now. And they'll just type in the name and there's their Facebook account or Twitter or Instagram or Snapchat or what have you. And believe it or not, it's a curiosity, but that's kind of stalking.
That's where it starts.
That's where it starts. And then they're divorced or they're widowed or whatever. Oh, maybe I'll send them a message or it kind of starts like that.
And not only that, even something that, it's just no friend, they're thinking, well, I'll just look them up. And they're saying to me, that's how adulterous relationships have started. And it's not even stalking, but they're just like, I'm just going to see how John's doing. And then, before you know it, they're having an adulterous relationship, and it wasn't planned. It's not like they said, I woke up one day like that guy who batted someone over the head and killed them. They didn't wake up saying, I'm going to go do this today or ever.
No.
But no, this is really fascinating, but I hope that it makes everyone listening in begin to think about how they can protect themselves, not put everything online, be aware of what's going on around you when you travel and you're out and about and in your life. But I want them to go read the book because it's awesome. Where can they go do that? Where can they get a copy?
Thank you very much. Well, it's available on Amazon and Kindle. So yeah, please check it. I'm working on a website right now, and hopefully it'll be up soon. But Amazon and Kindle, it's available right there. It's gotten some great reviews. So I hope, I'm glad people are reading it and that they like it. And if you like it, please leave a review.
Yes, and it's Stalker. They can get it Amazon, probably all the major book retailers. Now, you're also working on future books, are you?
I am. I'm working on a new book. It's kind of a spin-off of Stalker, where this time it's a female stalker. Where she's stalking an ex-boyfriend that she knew in high school.
Wow. A lot of people can relate to that one. Well, this has been really tremendous, August. I really hope that this is the spark that gets people to pay attention and not become the victim in their own life or the perpetrator. If you start to see weird signs, like when you pick up Stalker and read it and you start, I sound like Everest there, go get some help. And
Definitely.
Yeah, and if you start to feel like, I'm being watched, Elsa, maybe she even got some clues inside of herself. Women in particular are like, I don't want to think not nice things. So, maybe I shouldn't think he's following me. But, if you start to get a clue inside, pay attention to it.
Absolutely. And there are so many great organizations out there that can help. SafeHorizons.org. That's a great one. They have resources for people who feel like they're being stalked. Definitely pay attention to the signs.
Absolutely. Well, again, August, thank you so much for coming to share your great book. Everyone, please go get Stalker today so you don't become a victim or, a perpetrator, God forbid. But again, thank you very much, August, for coming to share your great wisdom today on Savvy Business Radio.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Savvy Business Radio broadcasts worldwide via a large podcast network, celebrating business owners, entrepreneurs, influencers, and successful individuals. Find out about our paid sponsorship opportunities or how to become a guest. Call 732-474-7375 or email Christina@savvybusinessradio.com.